All right, let's make our taco chicken. First, this is a family pack of boneless, skinless chicken breast. I always do this step. I make sure to cut off any large chunks of fat. And also, I feel really well for any like bones and cartilage and just pieces that are not obviously great to eat. Once I've done that, I cut it into just large chunks. This just makes it easier for me to shred later. Here's another piece I was talking about. It was kind of a rough piece at the end. Just cut that off and then add all of your chicken chunks into the Instant Pot. Once you've done that, you're going to repeat with all of the chicken breasts. Now it's time to season our chicken. Honestly, I never measure when I do this. Here is a salt-free taco seasoning. Now I'm seasoning this really heavily, y'all, because this is going to make a lot of taco chicken and broth for like 20 to 24 students in my class. Tony's is my favorite seasoned salt. Adobo is my second, so I use both of those, and I pour pretty heavily here. Next, I'm going to add nor caldo de pollo, which is just like a chicken bouillon powder. And then I usually add an entire jar of salsa. Here, I'm really just trying to get rid of whatever is in my fridge at the moment. So I pour the rest of this jar. There's a little bit left in this one. I'll shake it out with some water. I like to add a pack of ranch seasoning. This is optional, but I think it makes it taste really good. Adds like a nice tang. I fill most of both of those jars with water to shake out any additional bit of salsa. I don't waste anything. And also we need quite a bit of water as well to make our like liquid broth. Once it's added in there, I stir it around really well. Now, y'all make sure on your Instant Pot, there's like a do not fill past this line. Make sure you're not filling past that. I am going to need quite a bit of broth, so I'll add water later, like once it's done cooking. That's fine too. Now I'm going to close my lid and I'm going to make sure the vent is set to sealing. I'm going to cook it on high pressure for 12 minutes. Once the Instant Pot is done cooking, I usually do a quick pressure release. I was busy here, so I left it for 3 minutes. It's not that big of a deal. It took about 4 minutes to release all of the pressure, and then I make sure that pin has dropped and open it. I let any of the liquid on the top drop back in there, and I, using my tongs, just making sure like the chicken is ready. That piece was unusually tough, but the rest of it will shred really easily. If you'll see, the sides has a lot of that seasoning stuck to it. I always make sure and scrape that down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of the chicken into my KitchenAid, my stand mixing bowl. What am I doing? That's going to take forever. So I changed over to my spider, and then I can grab like a lot of the chicken at a time. You can add some of the liquid. Obviously, when you're just mixing it up, you don't want to add a bunch of liquid, but a little bit is fine. You don't need to completely strain it. Get all of that into your bowl of your stand mixer, and then with a paddle attachment, lock the top and shred it. It just takes a few seconds, like maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and that chicken will all be nicely shredded. Again, I did cut it into chunks. That just makes the shredding a lot easier, and it makes it like shorter pieces versus really long strands of chicken, which to me makes the enchiladas a lot easier to eat. Add your shredded chicken back to the broth so it can absorb the seasoning. Now, y'all, you need a taste for seasoning. I needed to add more water just because I need more broth anyway. So if it's too salty, just keep adding more water. If it's not seasoned enough, add whatever you think it needs. I let it sit in here for quite a while, however much time I have. Now, once it's sat in there and I know that like the chicken has absorbed all the seasoning, I take a strainer and I add the chicken into there. Now I'm trying to get out most of the broth. Again, I need the broth to make our enchilada sauce. You want to leave a little bit of the sauce in with the chicken though, or else the chicken will like possibly be dry inside your enchilada. So I do this with all of it. I got quite a bit of chicken out of this, and I think I got about 6 cups of the broth that we need. So now we're going to individual groups. So one group is 4 people. We're going to make 12 enchiladas. We're going to do about 1.5 cups of the shredded chicken mixture. It's, again, not that serious. I just used a 1 cup, filled it up the first time, about halfway the second time. Now I need 3/4 of a cup of sour cream. Remember, we're going to use a dry measuring cup for this because sour cream does not level itself. There's my 1/2 cup. Now make sure to try your very best to get all of it out of the measuring cup, and then we need 1/4 cup to complete our 3/4. Same thing, scrape it all out into a bowl. Complete the rest of your mise en place, which is 1 cup of our taco chicken broth, 12 tortillas, and we have a mix of shredded cheese here, some pepper jack, and some like Mexican mix. Then we're going to take our tortillas, and you have to heat them in order for them to be soft. I'm going the easy route here and just wrapping them in a damp paper towel and putting them in the microwave for 1 minute. You could also do this in a pan. Now, my taco chicken came out of the fridge because I did it a day in advance. It really is better if the taco chicken is like at least slightly warm. It'll just make it easier to handle, but also it'll heat up quicker in the oven because we're very limited on time in class on baking it. 1 minute, look how steamy they are. They're perfect. They're nice and soft. They'll be easy to work with. So make sure and keep them in your damp paper towel. I covered them with a kitchen cloth as well. Preheat the oven to 400. Now we're ready to go ahead and make our sauce. So pour your 1 cup of the chicken broth into a medium-sized saute pan. Now, this is important. You don't want to get it too hot before you add your sour cream. You can see that only one little part there is just starting to come to a simmer. That's perfect. If it's too hot, it could possibly curdle your sour cream, and of course you don't want that. Get all that sour cream into there and gently stir it. Obviously you don't want to make a mess. I switched to a silicone whisk here and just gently mix it up. This will take a couple minutes to make sure all the lumps of the sour cream are out. Now you can see here it's at a simmer. We're ready to add in our cheese. Now y'all, please do not turn your pan on too high. You don't want to burn or mess up any of your sauce because we are cooking with dairy. Do not put it on higher than like a medium heat. I added half of the cheese at one time, and then I went ahead and added the other half once it was nice and smooth and stirred. Now, y'all, this sauce is not supposed to be super thick. We're not adding any kind of flour or thickening agent. So we're just counting on like the sour cream and the melted cheese to slightly thicken our sauce. So once you're done with that, keep it on a very, very low heat, like 2 or 3 on your stove, just to keep it warm while we're getting ready for our next step. Now, I have like a medium-sized casserole dish. This size right here is perfect for our 12 enchiladas that we're going to bake. I think it's an 8.5 by 11. So now we're ready to assemble. I have my 12 tortillas. They're still nice and warm and pliable. I usually do about half at a time. Here, I accidentally got 7 on the first round. It's fine. I usually would do 6 and 6 though. Get out a large cutting board and lay your tortillas, your corn tortillas that are nice and soft and pliable, out. Then you can do multiple at a time. Now, y'all, you want to do about 2 tablespoons of the chicken mixture on each. It's really not that serious. Just try your best to do about 2 tablespoons, and then I add like a little bit of the cheese. Here I'm doing the pepper jack, and then I kind of tightly roll it up and put it seam side down into that pan with the sauce. So I just showed you one. Now I'm going to do multiple at a time, which is how I usually make them. Making sure you're filling the chicken. Here in a second, you'll see I found a bone in that mix right there, and I pulled it out. So make sure you're still paying attention, even though I thought I got them all earlier. Again, about 2 tablespoons per. Then I go back and add just a little bit of cheese on top. I want to make sure not run out of cheese. Once all of those are done, then go through your process again where you're rolling each one and then setting them nice and tightly into that casserole dish in the sauce, all right next to each other. So you're going to have 8 going up and down, like side to side, just like this, like I'm adding them in there. Once all of those are done, you need to make sure and push them all to the left side, because that other side you're going to be able to fit 4 the other way. This is how we're going to fit 12 in one pan. So here you go. 2 go up and down, and then the other 2 go on top of those, and it is perfect. We have all 12 of our enchiladas in there ready to top. Giving our warm sauce a quick stir, and then you're going to pour the whole thing right over your enchiladas. Now, it's not that serious about where you pour it. You're going to be able to spread it out with a rubber scraper here in a second anyways. Make sure and get all that sauce out of your pan though. This is what makes it so yummy. So use your rubber scraper, and you'll see I kind of just tilt the pan over to make sure it gets in all the crevices and the edges. You don't want any dry tortillas, and I use it and kind of tuck it into the sides, making sure it's all covered with sauce. Then I add whatever cheese you have left and top it. So I have a mix of pepper jack and then my like Mexican blend here. You don't want to add too much on top, but enough to make like a nice little layer. Then we're going to pop it into the oven at 400 for 15 to 20 minutes. Honestly, y'all, if you're short on time, 15 is enough, but if you can do it for 20, do it. As soon as the timer is up, pull it out, and you can see here, if you look closely, that it's still bubbling. The cheese is nice and golden. Let it cool just for a few minutes, and then serve it up with any toppings you want and enjoy.